I just packed my bags. I wasn't taking no chances."
"Was that wise, to leave without a reference?"
"Better than leaving with something else, if you'll beg me pardon, miss."
Deborah's lips twitched, but the situation didn't call for levity. The girl, like many before her, was now in a desperate situation, and through no fault of her own. However, she did need to probe a little more. "But you knew you had somewhere to go. To family, perhaps."
"I thought I had, miss. I went back to Wiltshire, but I found me auntie had taken up with a man at long last, and I didn't fancy the way he looked at me either. Out of the frying pan, if you know what I mean. So I slung my hook and managed to find a cheap room here. You know, miss, it's a mixed blessing to be born with looks."
Deborah's lips twitched again. She had no illusions about how she must appear to this young girl, older and dressed as soberly as she was. "And how did you hear about my agency?"
"It was when I went to Mass at St. Malachy's. The priest told me as how you had a charitable outlook on girls without references."
"Deserving girls," Deborah corrected.
"Yes, miss."
"And you want to go back into service?"
"Even though things are changing, it's all I know."
Deborah regarded her. It was true that since the war ended, increasing numbers of women were looking for different employment, but a position in a good household still offered advantages for girls without family support. A roof over one's head, warmth and food were benefits not to be underestimated. Deborah took great care in placing her applicants. "And the name of your previous employer?" She made a note of it with an asterisk. "Females. Send only homely and middle-aged." She gazed at the young woman before her. Fair, with a good complexion and frank blue eyes, she seemed trustworthy, and Deborah had great faith in her own judgment. "If you would like to return the day after tomorrow, perhaps in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, I may have some news for you."
"You mean you'll help me?"
Deborah smiled at her. "I'll certainly try."
Sarah rose. "Oh, thank you, miss. I'll be here on the dot."
Deborah watched her leave and then began to leaf through her card index, thankful that her father had not subscribed to the belief that education was wasted on women. Her private tutor, Mr. Channing, had included administration in his teaching, peering at her over his half-rimmed spectacles. "It is quite probable that you will marry a member of the aristocracy, or at least be the mistress of a large household, and you will find such knowledge useful." Deborah paused in reflection. Who could have possibly foreseen that at the age of 26 she would not only be a spinster, but, while concealing her title, have an occupation that would have appalled her parents? A staff agency would have been regarded as trade, a term of disparagement used by her insular class to describe anyone who worked for a living other than in a profession. Even as a young girl, she had inwardly rebelled against such narrow-minded snobbery. But it was only when her heart was splintered, first by the news that the man she adored had been killed at the Battle of Amiens, and weeks later by the loss of her parents to the Spanish flu pandemic, that Deborah discovered within herself a core of steel. Her beloved mother, then within days the gentle, intelligent man who had been her father, had succumbed to the airborne virus that had taken the lives of 228,000 people in Britain alone. And afterwards she'd had desperate need of that inner strength. Even more so when it was revealed that her brother Gerard had been appointed as her guardian. That evening, Deborah sat before her walnut dressing table feeling impatient as Ellen began with firm strokes to brush her shining bob. "I'm feeling rather tired tonight. I wish I hadn't accepted the invitation to go and dine with the Anstruthers. And Gerard expects me downstairs for drinks beforehand. More's the pity. I expect my new sister-in-law will have invited more of her boring friends." She knew that her mother would have disapproved of such intimacies with one of the servants, but Deborah had little patience with such conventions. She had fought years ago for Ellen to be her personal maid, with Gerard's opposition only stiffening her resolve. "You're mad. The girl is far too young and inexperienced." Her brother's pale blue eyes had been like flint. "An older woman, such as